What's up? It's Way Up with Angela Yee, and y'all been hearing Jemele Hill all morning, guest hosting, and all afternoon with me. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you for having me. This has really been the most fun part of my week. All right.
I appreciate that, and we did a special Tell Us a Secret just for you because you enjoy that.
I do.
And what people have to understand about Jemele is that when we first met, you were at ESPN. Sports was what we all know you for, but you love to talk about more than just that. And I think that's important because one thing I like to see is you and your husband, because you weren't married when I met you either.
Yep, that is true.
Having your conversations with each other about relationships.
Yeah, I think the thing that, because people are used to me in the sports space, and I guess maybe somewhat more recently in the political space, I think they think I'm super serious. And it's like, I'm not.
Right.
Like, I enjoy the mess. That's why I enjoy
Tell Us a Secret.
Tell Us a Secret. That's exactly why. But beyond all that, it's like I have a full life, and what I tried to do, or what we tried to do rather, with Bedtime Conversations is like sort of bring people into the conversations we actually have. Like these are real. And, people really responded well. And I feel like I have to clear this up because the number one comment that people always leave is, I can't believe he's got on sunglasses in bed. I need y'all to understand, one, he's from Detroit, right? And so you know how we do in Detroit. Buffs, buffs, yays. Look, don't let no other city tell y'all. Nobody put yays and buffs on like Detroit. That's ours, right? Yays and buffs. So he's blind. He can't see. These are prescription. That's why he has them.
Prescription glasses.
They're
not just trying to be cool in bed.
No, I mean, of course he's trying to be cool on some level, but he actually needs them to see. So I feel like I need to clear that up.
Well, the last bedroom conversation you guys had was about whether or not you should share locations.
Yes.
What was the consensus there?
So I think neither one of us have ever done it
in
our relationship or any other relationships, because I think some of this is generational. And from reading the comments and people's responses, like a lot of people do it for safety. Is that, in this age where people tend to over-index on true crime, they're worried about folk coming up missing if I don't hear from you and that kind of thing. And from a convenience standpoint, like I now that I've seen the dialogue, I get why people do it. It's like safety, and also a lot of people feel like it cuts down on needless phone calls.
Right.
Like if you look at the location and you see your significant other is at the store, you can be like, hey, I see you at the store. Can you
pick this up for me?
Can you pick this up for me?
See, now if I did that to my man, he'd be like, oh, why are you being so nosy? Why are you spying on me?
See, at this point, because we've never done it, I would feel like, what you trying to say?
Right.
Why you need me to share your location?
But are you ever somewhere you're not supposed to be, too?
He knows where I am, like
nine times.
At all times. So I was like, I feel like it's just unnecessary. And
I feel like sometimes I hide where I'm at. Like I might leave work and go to like Saks or something.
Okay.
And then my boyfriend would be like, where are you? And I'm like,
somewhere.
I just popped into Saks real fast. I have to return. I always have to return something.
But you're not really returning it. You really in there buying something?
I learned that from my mom.
Okay. That's a good one. I have to keep that one in mind.
All right. And then also as a journalist, still writing for The Atlantic.
I am still a contributing writer for that. And one thing I like about this iteration that my writing career has taken is like I've been able to show it in many forms. I have the memoir, obviously, which you have.
Uphill.
Available wherever books are sold, everyone.
Such a clever title, too. Uphill. Okay.
Total accident. My original title, the book publisher didn't like it. They thought it was too negative. And so the book editor, she came up with that.
What was the original title?
The original title, and I feel like I'm going to still use it down the line, so if somebody out there steal it, I'm going to know.
That's why we got to put it out here now.
Yes,
okay.
It was Broken Curses.
Okay.
Yeah, and they just felt like they needed something a little more positive. But I'm writing a children's book that's coming out next year. And this is a very different type of writing. I mean, as you know from my memoir, I'm very candid, very raw, very real. But when you are writing for children, you have to give them hope. you have to convince them that we are not in a complete what storm. So
okay.
Yeah.
What's the children's book? So
the children's book is about teaching young girls, and it's really, again, it's aimed at young girls, but I feel like any kid can read this, whether you're a girl or a boy. It's about how to be authentic and unapologetic. And so what I did was I told bits and pieces of my story, and also shared about 15 to 20 women who have inspired me. And I tried hard not to pick very obvious women.
Okay, I understand
that. Of course, you could say
Oprah.
That's Kamala Harris. Like that. Those are very obvious. So I picked like Coco Gauff, Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, Ida B. Wells, who I consider to be the godmother of journalism. My favorite author, Zora Neale Hurston,
Nice,
right? And
yes.
so, like, I wanted to, use how those women were able to mark themselves historically as sort of a blueprint for young kids to be like, hey, this is what they faced. They never changed who they were. And this is how it kind of paid off for them, and you could do the same thing.
We're going to talk more about this when we come back because you're probably a person that people will be inspired by on that list too. I know you wouldn't name yourself,
No.
But I always think about everything that you went through to see where you are now, the freedom that you have now. But it wasn't easy.
No.
It. And people don't understand being a public figure, but also being a public figure that there are certain people in this world that are very hateful. And they still come for you, and I notice it, but you do not back down. You respond, but I think always very matter of factly too, which I can appreciate with the facts. It's not ever. It doesn't feel like when I'm reading it, it's emotional because I think sometimes people say things to try to anger you. Mm-hmm. But instead, it's just like, well, get some education.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, a lot of things that I may say that might be rooted from an opinion, I have something to back it up.
Right.
And that's the beauty, I think, of having journalism as my background, the fact that I've been a columnist for so many years. And, what I write for The Atlantic is about the intersection between sports, race, gender, and culture, right? And it's like when you're trafficking in that space, you realize that race, gender, these are very emotional issues for people. And so you have to bring them something else to get them to think about this in another way.
All right, we'll talk about more of that when we come back. One of your articles, Trump has a funny way of protecting women's sports. Let's discuss It's Way Up. What's Up is Way Up with Angela Yee. I'm here with Jemele Hill, author of Uphill. Make sure you pick up her memoir as well. But we were just talking about Trump has a funny way of protecting women's sports. That's an article that you wrote for The Atlantic, I think, last month.
Mm-hmm, I did.
All right, so let's talk about what that article was about because he considers himself a champion
of women. But here, look, I get that for a lot of people, this is a thorny issue is when we're talking about trans women in sports. And so he's used that issue to demonize this entire community. And there are some facts that I think people don't realize. Like, number one, and this is from the president of the NCAA, there's 10 trans women competing out of 500,000 or 10 trans athletes that we don't even know if they're all women, but there are 10 trans athletes that are competing in college sports, period. Out of 500,000.
So how did this become such a huge issue?
Because
that also helped to kind of shape the election.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like, like everybody saw that commercial where he tried to paint Kamala Harris as being someone who is, I think that the tagline was like, she's for they, them, not you. It's like, you're not only dehumanizing a group of people that are already, we know what the suicide rate
have it tough.
They already have it tough.
Yeah.
And by the way, that policy he was referring to existed when he was the president. It still exists now. You know why? It's a Supreme Court law. They are following the law by doing this, right? And so, at any rate, this issue is very emotional for a lot of people. And as soon as as I've said to many people, Joanna Man was not a documentary, right? It's like this has very real consequences for the people of that, community. And there's a lot that we don't know or don't acknowledge about the science of it all. And I get it on the face of it. Yes, men are stronger than women. Like, I totally understand this. But I think we need to be a little more intellectually curious about this issue and ask ourselves, is the vitriol that we're painting in one direction worth all of what has happened? We got like over 20 states that have rules about this. Some of these states don't even have trans girls competing in youth sports at all.
Right.
They just have
But it's become a topic that they've latched onto.
Because of the fear and the hysteria that has been created. And so, he does all this, but at the same time, as he is saying he's protecting women's sports, he also wiped away all of the Title IX protections for female athletes. Like there was some very clear directives that not all of them, but it was some very clear directives that Joe Biden made in terms of this NIL money that's coming in now.
And
that it should
women are not going to be.
And we're right. He erased that protection
Mm-hmm.
that they would be getting. There would be some level of balance between the money that the school is giving out, and Trump erased that. So like that to me has much more, that could much more powerfully impact women's sports than the trans athletes issue.
Now, I want to ask you this because I know you also like to get messy.
I do like to get messy.
All right. So I saw a lot of people discussing Bill Belichick and his girlfriend, who's quite young.
Yes.
He also called her his muse.
Is that what we call it now?
Yeah, that's what he said. That's his muse.
What's she inspiring him to do?
Listen, we don't know. We're not in that bedroom. But you
I
know,
didn't want to think about that. Ugh.
with Shannon Sharpe, this came up too because people compared it to like, okay, he likes these young girls, this, and that. Well, Bill Belichick has this very extremely young girlfriend, way more of a big age difference. Why is that not the topic of conversation? So I want to ask you, when you're thinking about, but it is.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
But when you think about what's going on right now with Shannon Sharpe, I just want to know what your thoughts are.
So I want people to understand the difference is that one is attached to a sexual assault allegation and one is not, right? So even if regardless of the age difference, which, I think for a lot of people, when you see the fact that Shannon is in mid-50s and he started reportedly dating this young woman when she was 19, that automatically makes people cringe a little bit.
Right.
And with Bill Belichick, I have to be honest, considering the type of coach he was known to be, disciplinarian, strict, no-nonsense guy, to see him in this type of relationship and involving this young lady in his actual business as a football coach, like this,
shutting down interviews.
You shutting down interviews, having to be CC'd on all the
I mean, it's wild.
It is
I don't know what she did.
Crazy. And I was just like, oh, thank God that kind of love never found me. So, what I will say is I definitely think this relationship is a PR disaster for Bill Belichick, and it is changing the way people look at him as a football coach.
Okay.
Because, to some degree, maybe you can make some correlation between how you handle yourself personally with how you handle yourself professionally. But Shannon's case has a lot of layers. I know Shannon, obviously, and he's somebody I'm friendly with. I have not talked to him throughout any of this. I'm trying to think. I think the last time I saw him was like at the Super Bowl last year.
Did you feel like I should reach out to him and just be like, hey?
I thought about that, but in a way, I hate kind of doing that in crisis times because I don't want the other person to think I'm being messy, that I'm just trying to see, like,
because you are a journalist.
Yeah,
too,
like
right.
I don't want him to have that, sort of impression. And so not about his guilt or innocence, like, the legal process or whatever process will determine or not determine that, depending however this works out.
You think his career can recover from this?
I think his career depends on which career we're talking about. Like, I think he's done at ESPN. Like, I would be honestly knowing how the network is, and we have to remember, very conservative. This is Disney. That's a different ball game, and it, deserves got nothing to do with it. It's like, I just really don't see them wanting him back on air because of the kind of conversation and headlines this could create. I think in the podcast space he'll be fine,
right?
Because that's a much different environment. That's a much different audience that he has there. But I think for ESPN, especially given some high-profile incidents they have had in the past, that would probably be very tough for them to have him back on air.
All right. Well, listen, she has no problem answering any questions. As a professional, I appreciate you for that. I appreciate you for being here today, and I hope you do come back. We do have more.
Oof.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
After this is really just the last word. The people who are listening, y'all called in today. Y'all showed out today for my girl, Jemele Hill. And so when we come back, you do have the last word. It's way up.